Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the Spirit Society of Virginia here in our Friday Inspirational Talks. This is actually the day we dedicate to our public meetings. But because of the pandemic, we need to secure our public health. And that's the reason why we're here online. And you're welcome to join us so we can bring the Spirit Center into our homes. Of course, on Sundays, we have our public meeting now when we're studying Leon Denis, Andre Louis books. Leon Denis is going to come soon in the fall, but it's Andre Louis books, especially the book Action and Reaction. Short talks on Sunday at 11 a.m. outdoors, and after the talks, the passes. That's a very special moment, but this one is most special. Everybody is welcome to join us at this hour, because what we're going to bring to one another is an opportunity to study deeper. Recently, observing the public in outdoor locations, we realized we need Spiritism. We need Spiritism to bring to people a direction, because many people are living life as if we're gonna die tomorrow, in the sense of life is short. Yes, an incarnation is short comparing to eternity, but we can't live this life as if this is gonna end now, because what we're doing is for immortality. So you and I are invited today to delve within and find our true nature. That's why we're going to study today a topic that we barely discuss in the Spiritist movement. It's about the feminine element. There's so much for us to know, to understand. It's actually one of the first things we need to understand in life about our true nature. But before we go there, our dear friend Camila is going to bring a message that has everything to do with the theme. Right, Camila?
Right, Vanessa. Thank you. Welcome, friends. This evening, we are reading a message from the Spirit Emmanuel, and it's called The Gospel in the Woman. And this message starts with a passage from Paul that says, "In this manner, husbands should love their own wives as their own bodies. Whoever loves his wife loves himself." The apostle of the Gentiles has often been accused of excessive severity towards the female element. In parts of the letters he addressed to the churches, Paul proposed austere measures that, in a way, shocked countless apprentices. Few of the disciples noticed, in the vigor of his words, the mobilization of Christ's resources so that the defense of women and the patrimony of elevation that concerned them could be strengthened. With Jesus, legitimate feminism began, not the one which fills the hands of its speakers with colorful banners of the world's political ideologies, but one which traces superior and sanctifying guidelines in their hearts. In the most rigorous environments in matters of religious faith, such as in Judaism, before the master, the woman was nothing more than a commodity condemned to captivity. Eminent figures such as David and Solomon could not escape the abuses of their time in this regard. The gospel, however, opens a new era for women's hopes. In it, we see the consecration of the Blessed Mother, the sublime conversion of the Magdalene, the dedication of the Sisters of Lazarus, the selfless spirit of the ladies of Jerusalem who accompanied the Lord until the extreme moment. Since Jesus, we have seen growing respect on earth for the female mission. Paul of Tarsus was the consolidator of this regenerative movement. Despite the rough energy that marked his words, he sought to lift the woman from the degrading condition, entrusting her to the men as a mother, sister, wife, or daughter, associated with their destinies, and as a creature of God, equal to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Camila. And now we invite you for our prayerful moment. This shall prepare us to receive the message, to study together, but also to receive the treatment that the good spirits prepared for us during this hour. Dear Mother, Father God, life is so sacred. We want to understand more about the ins and outs of our true nature, being less materialistic, less attached to the current personality, to the current conditions, making them as relative as possible. So we expand ourselves, expand in the understanding that we are much more than the eyes can see and the hands can feel. We want to open ourselves to the universal family, feeling our togetherness. May this hour be of true treatment, true therapy for us. May we feel your presence, God, at each breath, in our deep vitality, in the blessing of living, loving and being loved, for you love us, and that's all that matters. We pray for those who persecute us, who misunderstand us, who are indifferent to us, feeling for them, praying that they find you and the happiness of living, the joy of living. In the grace of this moment, we open ourselves to give in good thoughts, good feelings, good words, good actions, and also to receive the blessings that you've prepared. May all the ones who have their names in the book of prayer at the Spiritus Society of Virginia find consolation, hope, a loving embrace, healing, and much serenity before the trials of life. Under your guidance and feeling your protection, may this hour be with you and only you. And so be it. All right, friends. We are here to talk about the feminine element. Why the name, right? Well, this is how it all began. We were studying the book Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pereira, the spirit Camilo. And there is a chapter named the female element. A chapter that is so important and so deep. And during that study, the spirit mentors recommended that we transform that study session into this moment for all of us, to make it more public, to bring to everyone the opportunity of understanding the feminine within. Because the feminine is a characteristic, like let's say it's a feature of the human mind. We have the masculine and the feminine. No matter if in the physical body we have the body of a man or of a woman, in the mind, as we say in psychology, the psyche has both components. And some people say, no, but I'm a man, I don't have the feminine. No, that's what you think, because there's several qualities in us that characterize the feminine. As much as we may be very feminine in a woman's body, we still have the masculine, and that doesn't make us less of a woman. Be determined, be courageous, are characteristics of this masculine that we can have and should have also as we are in the physical body. But before we go to the discourse of it all, we need to recap why we reincarnate and why we reincarnate in the body of men and women. So we have a group of us here who are prepared to share this study from the works of Kardec to many others in Chico Xavier's works. So we're going to call our friend Carol, who is here with us to tell us about why we reincarnate in the body of men and women. Right, Carol?
Right, Vanessa. Thank you so much. So, dear friends, we are all reincarnated. That is a fact. The question for us is, now that we have the blessing of being connected to a physical body, have we stopped to consider why is it that we reincarnate? And also importantly, have we ever questioned ourselves as to why God assigns us sometimes to the body, to be connected to the body of a woman, and other times to be connected to the body of a man? If we are connected to the body of a woman, what might be the purposes? If we are connected to the body of a man, what might be those purposes as well? Thankfully, Kardec, in his diligence, asked these questions, and this is what we are going to bring to all of our attention tonight. So let us begin delving into Kardec's works, dear friends. One moment. So as we can see here in this opening slide, we have a depiction of one of the departments of incarnation in the colony, our home, nosso lar. The high spirits consider reincarnation such a blessed opportunity that under the command of our Master Christ Jesus, every colony, like in the stature of our home, nosso lar, has a whole department devoted to the process of reincarnation. In this depiction, described by the spirit André Lewis in the book Missionaries of the Light, we see that there are spirit engineers designing our physical bodies even before we reincarnate, creating prototypes that are tailor-made to our evolutionary needs. So we can see that the higher minds that guide us under the Christ take the blessed opportunity of being connected to a physical body in the school of life very seriously. Now, through the works of Kardec, we are going to understand the reasons why this is such a blessed opportunity for all of us. So the first question that Kardec enlightens us on is explaining to us through the illuminated spirits the reasons why we reincarnate. In question 167, the illuminated spirits explain to Kardec and all of us that the purpose of a reincarnation is to expiate and to progress. We know that we undergo tests and trials in order to correct or redress our own previous mistakes, but a component of reincarnation that we may often dismiss is that we are reincarnated to progress. And reincarnating in the body of a woman, for example, connected to the body of a woman, may be an opportunity for us to progress further. Why? Because as our dear Vanessa told us in the beginning of tonight's talk, when we are connected to the body of a woman, we are connected in order to develop immortal qualities, such as developing, for example, our creativity, being co-creators with God, specifically because women can gestate the body of their children in the name of God. So women are very connected to creative forces. But the question is, are spirits male or female? Kardec asks. Interesting question. Do we have a gender pre-assigned to us prior to reincarnation? Through question 200, we receive the answer. The illuminated spirits explain to us that no, we don't have a gender pre-assigned to us, because this depends solely on our organic composition. Gender, therefore, is a characteristic of the physical body, not of the spirit. And so Kardec, based upon the previous question, elaborates further and asks, can a spirit who has animated the body of a man animate the body of a woman in a new existence? And the answer is concise but very illuminating. Thus, spirit mentors respond in this manner. They say, yes, since the same spirit can animate both male and female bodies. Since we have learned that gender is not pre-assigned, the same spirit can be connected to the body of a man in a particular existence and then to the body of a woman in a new one. Why? So that we develop both the feminine characteristics of the psyche and the masculine characteristics of the psyche. This is when we become more perfect, as Master Jesus already is a pure spirit. Why? Because he has both characteristics already in balance. We shall get there as well. And then Kardec elaborates further, dear friends, by asking, is there a preference to incarnate into a male or a female body when we are planning a reincarnation? And the illuminated spirits explain, it matters little to the spirit whether they are connected to the body of a man or to the body of a woman. The choice of a gender depends on the trials it must undergo. So if we are in need to develop more masculine features in order to progress for eternity, we may incarnate connected to the body of a man. If we are in need, eternally speaking, to develop more feminine characteristics of the psyche, we may incarnate connected to the body of a woman. Or if a spirit who incarnated in the body of a man, for instance, did not value those incarnated in the body of women in his lifetime, he may later, that spirit, incarnate in the body of a woman to learn to value the positions and situations and learning experiences that women tend to go through. So God assigns us to particular physical bodies so that we may progress by developing the very immortal characteristics that we are in most need of. And to illustrate the role of women and men in the family from a spiritist perspective, we have brought to, for our study tonight, a particular dialogue that the Spirit André Lewis had with Miss Laura in the colony Nosso Lar, when Miss Laura described to André Lewis a lecture that she had heard in the spiritual realm as a discarnate spirit about the role of women and men in the family. Miss Laura explains to us that the female or feminine sentiment has to do with the creative inspirations of life, because women can gestate a new body, helping so much, being instrumental with reincarnation itself. And Ms. Laura explains the male sentiment is concerned with achievements in the field of common progress. Ms. Laura describes the fact that those incarnated connected to the body of women are like a vertical line, like a y-axis reaching out to God. Those incarnated connected to the body of men are like the x-axis in the horizontal, seeking for the common progress. And in meeting together, they form a 90-degree angle where balance is found, says Ms. Laura. And she elaborates further by reminding us that the home where the masculine and the feminine elements of the psyche meet is a temple where individuals should join spiritually rather than just physically. So an opportunity for us to learn to look at each other as eternal spirits and value the particular gender roles that our physical bodies bring to us, because they do have a higher purpose that shall enrich us for immortality. Now, dear friends, our dear Daisy is going to elaborate further on the role of women from the Spiritist perspective.
Thank you, Carol. So, friends, as we continue talking about the role of women, and as Carol just explained to us, as it is in the Spirit's book, we come and we reincarnate in the body of men and women for a certain purpose. So, what is the role of those who, in a particular reincarnation, reincarnate in the body of women? So, we will bring a message by Leon Denis for our study. But before we go there, we want to highlight how this men and women, the masculine and the feminine, is studied and comes even by those as quote unquote are not spiritists, but Victor Hugo, actually the great novelist and poet, and you can read much more about him in the Spiritist magazine, issue number 21. He actually became acquainted, he was very spiritualist and became acquainted with Spiritism as he was reincarnated, and there are several elements of Spiritism in his works. He has a poem where he talks about men and women, and we'll bring here just one part of the poem as an introduction for us, because Victor Hugo says in this poem, the man is the brain, and the woman is the heart. The brain produces light, and the heart produces love. Fruitful light, love resurrects. As Carol was just bringing to us the teachings in the book Nosso Lar, we can clearly see how the message comes from so many different directions. The man has the brain, has that characteristic of being the rational, the reason. Two, has Vanessa said, being the term. And also the women has complementing, has the heart that is the center of love, of bringing that togetherness, has her role, has a mother, has a sister, has a daughter. So to complement this and to further our studies, we will go to this book, In the Invisible, by Leon Denis, where there's a message titled Women in Spiritism. A message that is really revolutionary, friends. This book was published in 1903, so more than 100 years ago. Leon Denis was already a visionary. So, what is the view of Spiritism related to women in their role? He starts by saying that for many centuries, women have been relegated to a secondary role, despised and excluded from priesthood. They were constrained by a restricted, frivolous, and superfluous education, and their most beautiful attitudes were constricted and belittled, obscuring their character. This, for us, we can see in our history how, yes, women have been put aside as a secondary role. They were given the minimum education, and their role was to do what? To serve, right? Serve men at home. And she was put aside. There were no voice for women. But then Leon Denis comes and brings us so much enlightenment related to the feminist movement. something that nowadays there's so much talk. So how does Spiritism views the feminist movement? Well, he says that complementing, as he was saying, women was relegated before. However, a reaction is already underway under the name of feminism. A certain movement accentuates, legitimate in its principle, yet exaggerated in its intention. Why is the Leon Denis explaining to us the importance of the feminist movement? However, enlightening us that there are aspects of this movement that is exaggerated. How come? Well, he explains to us because alongside these very just claims, it enunciates purpose that would make women no longer women, but a copy, a parody of men. Friends, let us then bring this to our current society. Yes, women have a very important role, but Leon Denis clarifies that women should not be seen just as a copy of men. We fight and is just for the equality of our rights, equality of pay at work. However, is not to put women in this place just like a copy of men. And why is the reason that? He says that the feminist movement is unaware of women's true role, and they tend to mislead them from their naturally and normally traced destiny. How is that, friends? We see nowadays at work, for example, women who have children and they first don't want to show, they hide that they are pregnant. Oh, because if my male colleagues see that I am pregnant, what they will come? They will think I'm weak. Women who are afraid to tell their supervisors that they are expecting a baby because they think that that will then put them aside. So are we exactly as Leon Denis says here? Are we just trying to, as women ourselves, put ourselves as a copy of men? Or those who come back from maternity leave and they don't even talk about their children at work, because how come men don't talk about their children? Who am I to talk about my child in the workplace? So where can we go, friends? What is the role of women seen by Spiritism? Leon Denis says that men and women, they were born for different but complementary roles. Okay, thank you, Leon Denis. So we know that, yes, we are as important, but we have complementary roles. What are those? From the point of view of social action, they are equivalent and inseparable. Men and women are equivalent. However, Spiritism restores to women their true place in the family and in the social work, indicating their sublime role that they must play in education and in advancing humanity. Women, friends, why do we see so many women in the role of educators? Not that men are not in that task, but this is a particular characteristic that women need to develop, and they are as responsible to advancing humanity. It reintegrates women their mission as a predestined mediator, a true bond of union that connects Earth's and space society. Exactly as Carol was mentioned to him, women has the y-axis linking Earth directly to the higher spheres. As a mediator, women have come with this characteristic to be able to be the mediator, bringing peace, reconciliation. Those are roles of women. And women has also a particular role related to mediumship. Leon Denis says that the great sensibility of women constitutes them as mediums par excellence, capable of translating thoughts and expressing emotions, the sufferings of the soul, and the elevated teachings of the celestial spirits. If we study all Kardec's books and the story behind them, we'll see that the mediums at the time that were working with Kardec, they were young women. They were young girls at the time. So women come with this particular role as mediums. And he says more. Hence the need to develop in women their intuitive powers. At the same time, their admirable moral qualities, self-forgetfulness, and the joy of sacrifice, and the feeling of the duties and responsibilities inherited to their mediator mission. Friends, as women, those are the qualities that we bring. We see this in mothers, in sisters, daughters, as those who really put themselves, forgetting about themselves. We see that how mothers really have to forget themselves to feed their baby, to wake up in the middle of the night, and they do it with the joy of that sacrifice. And he ends this message bringing to us the light of Spiritism, that through Spiritism, the woman is subtracted from the apex of the senses and ascends to the higher life. She resumes in the home the enchanting mission that belongs to her, made of dedication and mercifulness, her important and divine role as a mother, sister, an educator, her noble and sweet persuasive role. Women friends have a particular role in the home to being that mediator has Leon Denis bringing to us, to be that peacemaker with her dedication, with her mercifulness, her kindness. Is then he says that Spiritism then puts an end in this battle, right? The battle of the sex. Women trying to be like men, and really elevates women to their true role in society, as important as men, but with different but complementary roles. The two halves of humanity are aligned and balanced in love to cooperate together on the providential plane and in the works of the divine intelligence. And we end, friends, with Leon Denis again, now in another book, not yet in English, in Portuguese, O Problema do Ser, do Destino e da Dor, and where he brings once again for us the role of women, as he already mentions to us, but has a great counselor and had a great consoler and a loving counselor. The child is her future, and she trains the future man. Yes, women comes with a particular role. Those who are mothers, educators, who are aunts, they come to train the future of humanity. That's why they have this particular role. In the societies that oppress her, they will oppress themselves. So, if women are respected, if they are honorable, they're enlightened, that makes not only the family strong, but that will make our society at large more moral and more united. That is Leon Denis' message for all of us, friends. And now we pass the word to our dear Vanessa so we can continue in our study.
Thank you, Daisy, for bringing that topic. As you and Carol have brought to us in the studies, it's clear that there is much for us to understand, right? Right. So, friends, let's go back here. We need the experience in the body of men and women, as Kardec brought to us. But why, if the spirits say it matters very little to the spirit whether we are incarnated in the body of men and women, why does it matter so much to us when we are here? Why does it matter so much to the point that if you say to somebody, oh, you may reincarnate in the body of man in next life, or to a man in the body of a woman next life, they're like, oh no, please don't. It shows to us that we know very little about ourselves. And it also shows our attachment to material things. People think that attachment is about attachment to money. No, it's attachment to our personality. It's attachment to our name. Some people are like, oh, if you have my name, you're family. If you don't have my name, you're not family. If you are the same blood. I've heard people who were born and raised in a spiritist family, but not very much of a spiritist they are, though they go to the spiritist centers when they need, telling the children of his, oh, we're the same blood. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything, because it means much in the sense of learning and progressing, but that doesn't define us. The last name, the body that we have, they are sacred, but they don't define us. As we are seeing here in Daisy brought to us through Leon Denis studies, and psychology comes especially through psychoanalysis with Carl Gustav Jung, that there is this yin and yang inside of us, the feminine and the masculine, and Jesus exemplifies to us the greatness of the balance of both. Jesus was in the body of men, but he was as compassionate as we need to be in our feminine, loving and caring and all embracing as the feminine in us. So he is the model of the completeness, the wholeness, or the wholesome of ourselves. But to get there, we need to restore things and to respect this feminine inside of all of us, and especially in women. Women are not yet respected to the way they need to be. I have many friends who are homosexual, and this is nothing about sexual orientation, but they say, Vanessa, we need people to respect the rights of the LBG, and now I lost track of the acronym now. It's longer than ever. The transgender community. And I say, yes, we need to respect it. But you know what? First, we need to respect women, because that's where the problems begin. When you have women at home who are mothers and they need help to be good mothers, they are not respected. Sometimes we respect, the men respect their mother, but not the wife that they have. Something is missing. No wonder Paul of Tarsus came and said, the men who truly love themselves, they will inevitably love their wives. So when we see somebody who do not feel that way, it's a sign they don't love themselves. This comes way before psychology exists on the earth, way before Freud discovered about the unconscious, way before Carl Gustav Jung talked about this duality of the mind that is not a duality, it's just two complements of who we truly are. John De Rosa is asking a question, and before we move on, thank you, John. The book, I think the book in the Invisible has been translated by the United States Spiritist Federation for Leon Denis books. People can refer to the bookstore of the United States Spiritist Federation because they're the ones who have been working on those translations. And I think they recently published it, including the book that Daisy mentioned last, The Problem of the Being, and you can double check. Thank you, John. So, friends, for now, let us go back to the initial message that Camila read for us at the beginning as an overview. Okay, so let's go here. It's a message by Emmanuel, and this message, in a certain point, reminds us of how it has been. As Emmanuel says, in the most rigorous environments in matters of religious faith, such as Judaism, in Judaism, before the Master, the woman was nothing more than a commodity condemned to captivity. Eminent figures in Judaism, such as King David and King Solomon, could not escape the abuses of their time in this regard. It's so interesting to read the scholars in the field of the studies. There are beautiful studies that have been done about the abuses towards women in Judaism in ancient times, and especially in regards to King David and King Solomon. People that were so important for our bringing about of this understanding of God as the only one, and the cultivation of this understanding that this God that is the only one is our foundation. But on the other hand, the humanity of theirs is still very present. And there is a passage in the Old Testament in which we're going to see King David looking through a window and seeing this woman, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing her name right, Bathsheba. She was married, and in 1951, Gregory Peck was in a movie when they were portraying that relationship that is described in the Bible. But they portrayed in 1951 as if King David was seduced by that woman. And nowadays, the scholars telling how unreal the scenario that Hollywood portrayed brought about. No, King David was the one that felt that he wanted that woman that was married to another man who was a shepherd, and he wanted her, and the literature describes as he raped her because she was loyal to her husband, but he wanted her no matter the wives he had. Plus Solomon, King Solomon, we all know the many wives he had, and people say that he had thousands of wives, and they were never enough. There was always more. Why? Sexual addiction. So the scholars talk about sexual addiction. Nowadays, when they go back and research more deeply in the literature, showing to us what happens to date. Many people still in some parts of the world, or even in Western society, we still have people who have this hat of authority, imposing themselves on the figure that is more fragile in the society and harassing them. Nowadays, in the United States, for example, it's a huge topic, sexual harassment. The Me Too movement came about recently and trying to give more and more help to women so they protect themselves. The statistics tell us that 1 in 4 girls in the United States, and this is exactly what they say, will, and this is in a paper written by experts in the field of science that talk about this. 1 in 4 girls will be abused sexually. And 1 in, I think, 10 or 11 boys will also be subjected to the same. The numbers are really shocking because we're talking about the 21st century. Things that should not happen any longer. And you may be asking, how come we're reading these things in Spiritism and are talking about rape, the abuse of women, the disrespect towards women and girls? Well, because it is a topic that happens to date. Daily, in my profession, I hear people telling women saying how their partners were one person when they were dating, and then after they got engaged, they got married, over the years things changed. And you may say, oh, but my wife changed as well. But usually it is on the very women that we see the claim that things change so dramatically, especially because when you become a mother, you need help. You're the one caring and nursing, and rarely, and we'll say seldom, we're going to find a partner that is really there emotionally. They may be there financially, but not emotionally, not supportive. And we're going to find that it's still lingering to date, the misunderstanding of the role of a woman, the misunderstanding of the feminine in all of us. And Emmanuel doesn't go there only. As you could see, he talks about King David and Solomon being abusive towards women. This is how fascinating Spiritism is. It doesn't sugarcoat it. And it says, with Jesus, everything changed. Because with Jesus, the true feminism comes to life. Not the one that feels the hands of women with colorful banners of the world's political ideologies, but one that traces superior and sanctifying guidelines in their hearts. As Daisy just brought to us, when Leon Denis breaks down that when we're in the body of women, there's something so particular and so special that nobody else can do. Nobody else can do. There is a superior and sanctifying guideline in the hearts of women that we need to respect, that we need to cherish, that we need to empower for the sake of humanity, because it is in women that gestate that we'll find the upbringing of the new generation. In the prenatal life, it's not even after birth. We're talking about gestation as the cultivation of the new generation as well. And Emmanuel, in few lines, describes so much to us that could change the whole way we feel about ourselves, about life, about our relationships, if and only if we could grasp the depth of the proposal that Jesus brings to us. You may be asking, why did Jesus begin this movement? Where is the evidence? We're going to find that Jesus himself is the one that opens a new doors. And here, Emmanuel summarizes in one paragraph how he did it. The gospel, however, opens a new era for women's hopes. In the gospel, we see the consecration of the Blessed Mother. Of course, of all women, in Jesus' Mother, we're going to find the foundation of what it is to be a woman. A woman that at an early age surrendered herself totally to God, embraced motherhood with so much dedication and devotion that she continued until her last days, even past the death of her son, even past, even after life. Now Spiritism brings to us in the very book, Memoirs of a Suicide, that soon will be talked about by Paloma. In the book, we see how beyond that life, Mother Mary continues to embrace all of us on earth with the feminine, embracing everyone. And then when we go back to the history of the gospel, in Mary Magdalene, we're going to see in her sublime conversion what it is to really bring the best of our feminine, the balanced feminine, the feminine that is really all embracing, that is not only to seduce, to sustain their life, but the feminine that sublimates itself towards the benefit of everyone, reaching out, in Mary Magdalene's case, to the people who had leprosy. She embraced humanity as her own family when she finally understood. And why did she do it? Because of Jesus. Jesus didn't discriminate her. Jesus didn't put her aside. He is your guide and model. He's my guide and model. How can I despise any woman in this world, whether she had many husbands, many men in her life, or not? I can't. Why? Jesus showed us the way. I know men who say, I can't respect that woman. I can't marry her because she had other husbands or because she had other boyfriends. I want somebody who is a virgin. Wow. That is the true signature of a materialistic person. Because in reality, you and I had many partners in many lives. Deep inside, the virginity is only of the body, because there is not virginity of the soul. How can I say I will respect somebody in those conditions? That's a testament to somebody who's truly materialistic. And for us, for Spiritists, it matters very little, if it matters. Because for Jesus, it doesn't matter. When he talked to the woman of the well, he knew she had many partners. And he understood why. She was searching for love. She wanted love. But at a time when love still didn't happen, and to date, people are still in that quest. Because the love that we'll find is the one that comes from God. It's not in a person. It's not in a relationship. It is through a relationship, not in the relationship. And Jesus, in the dedication to the sisters of Lazarus, Mary and Martha, dedicating himself to their requests. And the ultimate request, to bring back to life the life of their brother. Jesus is constantly showing to us how he respects women. We'll never forget how he dedicated himself to Peter's mother-in-law, showing to us that she mattered as much as Peter, as much as any other disciple. And the selfless spirit of the ladies of Jerusalem, Joanna of Cusa, you can read it in the book Good News, which, by the way, is all through the Spiritist magazine. In each issue of the Spiritist magazine, you'll be able to come across one chapter of the book Good News. The book is pretty much there throughout the issues of the Spiritist magazine since 2012 to date, 2021. Jesus is the one that showed growing respect on earth for the female mission. And Paul of Tarsus, though very strong, he consolidated it. And when you read the book Paul and Stephen, you'll see the true picture of Paul of Tarsus being so loving to his fiancée, Abigail, so respectful that he would talk about his business, and I say business quote unquote, in the sense his work. There are men who are like, I don't discuss my work with my wife because they think they're better than the wife. Actually, they're afraid of the wife because they know if they discuss, they would quickly have better ideas, but they are afraid. It's the ego. It's the ego. But Paul of Tarsus was not afraid. He talked to Abigail as a true partner, and she was his fiancée. The dialogues are so beautiful in this book, Paul and Stephen. That reminds us so much about the American history, John Adams and Abigail Adams. Their beautiful relationship and how Abigail Adams helped John Adams so much in his mission at a crucial time for America, for the world, for our planet. And for us today, we ask, no matter if you and I are in the body of men and women, we need to ask ourselves in a scale 0 to 10, what is the level of our respect to women and to the feminine inside of us? I remember, it's a confession, when I was younger in Brazil, seeing my mother dedicating her life to 5 children, and my father working, my father at home as a stay-at-home mom, and I couldn't understand why she made that choice. I couldn't understand. I said, why? Why did she choose it? And it took me motherhood to really understand and say, well, she chose the best part. It's not easy when you have to surrender your independence, your financial independence, the freedom of your time to dedicate your life to raising a child or 5 children or 16, like my great-grandmother. But in the Spiritist literature, we will understand in a book that is a must, but yet to come in English, that, as Paul of Tarsus said, We need to lift that woman from her degrading condition. When she's a mother, a sister, a wife, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, as someone who is equal to men, but who has different roles. And above everything, the most special part of being a woman is motherhood. Mary Magdalene could not have children, but then she understood with Jesus that being the mother of the children of others, she became a mother. And it was more special than being the mother of her biological children. There is this book named Mother, and you're seeing here the version in Portuguese because the version in English doesn't exist yet. But a whole book psychographed by Chico Xavier through several spirits, talking about how sacred of a mission it is to be a mother. A mission that is still taken for granted on earth. Little by little, we are awakening to it. And we understand why so many women nowadays say, I don't want to be a mother, or I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. And we understand because it's not respected. It's not valued. But one day, on Earth, as it is in other happy planets, we will see that to be a mother will be so sacred that people will have to really prepare themselves for it, but not only women, men included. Because to be the support system of a mother, it takes a true man or a true partner for the couples that are of same sex, same gender. It takes a true partner to really embark in the journey of supporting the journey of motherhood, the journey of raising children with the feminine that is inside of all of us. But what if we don't do it? To pass the word to Paloma, I'd like to share with you a true account in this book, Mother, that is here in front of us. A case that is told by Cornélio Pires, a spirit who came through Chico Xavier and told the case of a man who was a son-in-law. He didn't like the mother-in-law. Every time she came home, he cursed her, he mistreated her. One day he went to work and never came back because he died in an accident. He was still very young. And interesting enough, his wife was so young, she remarried. And he came back as the son of his wife. And guess what? His grandmother was the very mother-in-law in the previous life. And he loved her so much, he couldn't wait to come to her arms, the arms of her grandmother, every day. So friends, no matter who is your mother, your sister, your daughter, your granddaughter, your cousin, your niece, remember to respect and to love, because the ties of blood are very passing, and we're all destined to love. But what if we decide not to love, not to embrace the sacredness of being a woman, the sacredness of being a mother? What happens? Paloma is here to tell us the other part of the story. Right, Paloma?
That's right. So let us go now to the book Memoirs of a Suicide. And it's chapter 21, bringing us this conversation about the feminine element. And it starts by saying like this: the reality of the matter is that the spirit that reincarnates numerous tasks to perform, female tasks and missions, acquires solid and redemptive virtues more quickly and with greater efficiency, thus elevating itself morally in less time. But what happens if we don't fulfill these tasks? We just learned why we reincarnate, the role of the female in society as a whole, and we're talking about motherhood. But what happens if we don't fulfill it? In the book, it describes the women's sector that is within the Mary of Nazareth Hospital. And just to explain a little bit more, Mary was tasked by Jesus to take care of suicide spirits in the spiritual realm. Mary and the Legion of Mary that works with Mary rescue these spirits and bring them to this hospital, which is named after her. This whole book describes the experiences of Camilo and things they went from the time he was rescued, and then them visiting the many parts of the hospital. So now they are in the women's sector, dedicated only to women. And the women that are there being treated are in a really, really terrible state of mind. But what led them to be in such state? There are many things, friends. One of them, breaking the laws of marriage, being unfaithful. Of course, we understand the dynamic of this. You are unfaithful, then you are ashamed, and then you feel guilt. And guilt will consume us from within. But these women did more. They refused the duties of motherhood. Now let us talk about when it says refused, it's not only to the ones that came with the mission of being a mother and decided not to, for one reason or another, but also to the ones that are mothers, but neglect the duty of being mothers. Being a mother is beyond just the gestation. Actually, we're talking motherhood when you don't even need to gestate. Just like the example of Mary of Magdalene. What else did they do? They were dominated by deadly vanities, earthly passions, and vices. So instead of resigning to the role and the mission, they wanted to live in their material life. There was no resignation. And they committed many times abortions. Many abortions. And eventually, friends, with situations like this and being consumed by guilt and shame and being in pain while incarnated, they suicide. At this point, you can imagine what are these women in their spiritual realm. But nevertheless, they were being rescued by Mother Mary and her team. And they're being treated, even if they are unaware, Because at that mental state, they are surrounded by vibrational waves that are so dense and disharmonious that they have deformed their perispirit completely. That's how bad they are. And I want to read to you directly from the book so that we have this vision of what's happening to these women. It says, dark figures covered in rags, tragic examples of ruin, fought with 1,000 persecuting shadows surrounding them in the overcrowded cells. All over their bodies, darkened by their mental impurities, we notice what looked like wounds that bore singular marks as if imprinted in fire or blood. They wore the mental replica of the human embryos that would have developed in the sacred maternal womb if they had not been expelled from it by an act of irreverence toward both nature and the divine creator. Their images had remained reflected in the perispirit of the unfaithful mother as the mental product of a crime committed against a defenseless being, deserving of all support and the utmost dedication. The situation for these women are quite grave. Camilo actually mentions that he had never seen it, something so terrible. And he had come from the men's sector, and he was going around and he was quite impressed by what he saw in this women's sector. These women, they will have to reincarnate many, 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 many times just to start repairing these grave errors from the past. But why do we study this? Why do we look at this and we're like, oh my God, Paloma, this is so sad. We were all happy talking about the role of women and motherhood, and now you brought this. The reason is, friends, awareness shines light in our soul. Awareness guides us to do the right thing. Now we know. And not only we know for ourselves, but we know for others. When we see women struggling for whatever reason, we need to give a helping hand. And when we say we're not saying women helping women. We're talking about everyone helping to sustain women. As Leon Denis said, if we sustain half of the population, which are women, we sustain society. We build a stronger society. So that we don't get to this state of mind. A state of mind that we can't say that is too far away from each one of us. That it hasn't been in our past, and we are the ones repairing at this very moment. And as we are very visual beings, still need to a lot of concrete examples we bring to help us the best feminine role model that we've seen in our planet. Mother Mary. She represents to us the highest example Her expression of resignation, faith. She didn't judge God when she saw her son at the cross. And she loved. She loved everyone. She's a true inspiration. That doesn't mean that when we think of Mother Mary, that she didn't cry, that she didn't have any concerns, that she didn't need a helping hand. When we see her at the cross, she's right there with John and Mary of Magdalene. They're holding her up. Not because she didn't trust the designs that came from God, but because she was a mother. She never doubted her divine mission. She was the mother of Jesus, the governor of our planet. And to go further, for us to be inspired by Mother Mary, we found this poem, which I cannot translate, but it's just beautiful poem in Portuguese. So I will tell you with my own words what Maria Dolores, through Chico Xavier, wrote about Mary. She called this poem Portrait of a Mother. And Maria Dolores says that Mary goes to the encounter of Judas in the lower zones. Judas is suffering, full of remorse, guilt, shame. Judas in a real dark place. So dark that he can't see Mary. He's blind. She comes close to him, caresses his head, and she says, "My son, why are you crying?" And Judas, very aggressive, that said, I killed myself and here I am still standing. Mary listens to Judas. What he's saying, that he's the one that killed Jesus. And Judas just wants her to leave. Tell him, just leave him. He is in hell. What does Mary do? Does she leave him? Is she angry? She went all the way to the lower zones and Judas tells her, just go? No. Mary responds, "My son, I know you cry, I know you fight, I know the pain that remorse causes, but I tell you that God is always love, everywhere. God's goodness never condemns." Judas doesn't want to hear anything about love, but Mary says, "I love you, my son. I want to see you renewed in life, full of peace and light. You will go back with me, and little by little, your anger will diminish. Your heart will be blessed by forgetfulness. I will take you to my quiet shelter." And Judas still doesn't know who he's talking to. He asks, "Who talks to me like this, knowing I am the traitor? Are you a divine woman irradiating love, or a celestial angel who I can feel the light?" And Mary stands. Friends, visualize this. He can't see her, but he can feel her light. She stands in front of him and says, "My son, I am Jesus' mother." This is a mother for us. It is not a mother only for our children. Mary tells us that when we are in role of women, we need to activate our unconditional love. We came to love. We are here to implement love. So when it sounds maybe cliche that we say love, 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 love all the time, I'm guessing right now Mary's probably really happy because she wants us to talk about love. She wants us to feel love. She wants us to spread love to our families and everywhere we can reach. Even if we have to go rescue someone from the lower zones. She inspires us to be good women when we are in the Spiritist Center. Good women at work, in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our community. We love at all times. So we keep Mary in our hearts today, feeling her close to us in her inspiration, for us to keep working on the most important feminine element, love. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Paloma. Wow. So we have a lot to work upon us. And this is the feminine in us, including the feminine in the body of men. Right? I remember somebody asking me once, "But Vanessa, why? Why all the prophets and the greatest spiritual leaders were always men?" I say, I wouldn't say that, because there were many women, but they were not uh, allowed to be the greatest, but there have always been. But let's say why Jesus had to be in the body of men. Not only because he wouldn't speak a word if you were in the body of women, because culturally speaking, it's a reality. It was a reality. But also because it is the masculine in us that needs to give way to the feminine. And what was crucified in Jesus was not the masculine, because he was determined and courageous. It was the feminine that we still crucify. We still crucify inside of us when we surrender to forgiveness. And people say you shouldn't forgive. Inside of us, we are crucifying the feminine, because the feminine is the one that is compassionate, that is understanding, that is all encompassing. And we still crucify that feminine, and that's why we get depressed. We get depressed because we don't give way to this mode of the feminine inside of us. So today, inspired by Mother Mary, as Paloma brought to us, let us be inspired by this surreal feminine that is yet to be embraced by all of us, whether in the body of men and women. By meditating this portrait of a woman, the portrait of a mother, and the portrait of the feminine for us, this unconditional love. So now we invite everyone to join us in a prayer that is also the soothing passes. Let us then feel Mother Mary's presence amongst us and pray. Dear Mother Mary, thank you for bringing the sweetness of your presence, your unconditional love, stimulating in us the best and the divine. Thank you for welcoming us to a new moment in our lives, to renewal. And with you right now, we think of all the women in the world, from babies to elderly women, and we visualize your loving heart emanating to them the support and the protection that they need. And especially to mothers. May they feel your support and keep on trusting that they are never forsaken. May the people in their lives support their mission, empower them, and we thank you, dear Mother of all of us, for blessing us, reminding us that everything shall pass, and that there is always a new beginning, that God always gives us a new day. We feel a shower of healing light coming from your heart towards us, enveloping us in renewal and strength. And we breathe in and out this healing light, flushing away the toxins of the mind and the feelings, and renewing us with your loving smile and your kind embrace. We feel ourselves enveloped by your love. And we pray that our world on earth feels your call to love, deep and unconditional. May we stay connected to you today and always, and so be it. John the Rose is saying, when enough men embrace their feminine God-given qualities, then peace will reign on earth. Amen, John the Rose. Thank you for bringing that about. Thank you, friends. We hope this has inspired you. Share this study with others, because this can help so many people bring new light, new inspiration. Don't refrain from sharing, liking it, subscribing to all of Kardec Radio's channels, because in this way, we're spreading the good. Some people write to us, say, how can I support you? Share, 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 share and share. Because in that way, you're not only supporting, but you're also helping others. Thank you, friends. A big hug. And until next time, for those who are in this area of the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., come on over in person at the Spirit Society of Virginia at 11 a.m. on Sunday. We have a short talk, Life in Two Worlds, based on André Louis' books, followed by the passes. But if you have any symptom related to COVID, cough, sneeze, fever, don't come. Stay at home. Write us a line. We can send you for sure the Zoom link and you can participate to be with us as well. Thank you, friends. Until next time.